Hi, my name's Leanne. I'm an award-winning makeup artist and I'm here to help you with your makeup. Hi, so this video I'm going to talk about brands, brushes and give you some tips and advice on products and formulas. So in my kit I use a whole variety of brands and formulas, so I don't just pick one brand, I sort of cherry pick the best of all the brands and see what I like to use and trust, and that's what I work with. So I would recommend you do the same with your own makeup bag and mix and match all your products, skincare and makeup. You don't have to use a whole range of one brand to make it effective. You can mix and match everything. So don't be taken in by the marketing and advertising blurb, just do what you want to do and what works for you. And I always mix up cheaper and expensive brands, so it depends on what I'm buying, and the expensive brands tend to be more pigmented, so you need to use less of them so they last a little bit longer, but the cheaper ones can be really effective. So there's some fantastic brands out there online and in the shops that you're going to get great results with, and I see that the formulas are improving all the time. So whereas cheaper sort of eyeshadows used to be not very pigmented and it was difficult to blend with, I now see them, they're really effective, so they're easy to blend. You get a lovely rich colour and pigment to them. So don't be afraid to buy the cheaper brands, especially when you're experimenting and trying new things, whether it's new colours or new formulas. You try the cheaper ones. You don't want to waste a load of money potentially. Just buy what you can afford, have a practice, and then if there's something you really love, then it might be worth a bit of a splurge and spending out a bit more money. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about brushes, because a lot of people they always ask me, what brushes do you use? Is there a brand? Is there a type? Again, like with the makeup products, mix up your brushes. So there could be cheaper brands that really work for you. Some of the Morphe brushes online, very reasonable but so effective. But then if you're using a brush a lot, you might want to spend a little bit more on it, so it might be worth the investment. And also your brushes are an investment in a way, so the more you spend, the longer they're going to last if you look after them. So I would recommend washing your brushes as regularly as possible. Obviously my kit ones get washed after every client, but my own ones I wash at least once a week at home, because it keeps them in good condition and it also gives me a better result with the makeup that I'm applying. So it's not so much of a hygiene issue, although it's nice to keep them nice and clean. But it's also the build-up that's on the brush. So if you get build-up on a brush, it's going to change the way the product applies. So it's really important to keep them clean for that reason, so you don't get the build-up. You'll get a nice clean finish, a nice result with your makeup. I just wash my brushes in some liquid hand soap. For the dry brushes that I'm using powder. For the wet brushes, I call them wet brushes, so they could be concealer, foundation, any creams or liquids that you're applying brushes in. You may need to use something a little bit stronger. A lot of people like baby shampoo. I just use a nice quality washing up liquid, because I find a liquid soap won't clean likes of foundation brushes. It just won't cut through it. So something like a nice washing up liquid or a baby shampoo will clean them up really nice. Just give them a wash through I just give them a wash through in my hands with running water. I know there's lots of gadgets and things out there, and if you like that, that's great. There's lots of sprays and things as well. If you like those and they work for you, fantastic. It's going to make sure that your brushes stay clean. So it's whatever is easy and works for you. I like to just wash them through, leave them dry flat overnight, and then the next morning they're absolutely perfect to use again. So it's quite simple. It can be a little bit of a chore, but not too much. It's worth washing them and looking after them just to get the best result possible. Some of my brushes are 10 years old and they look brand new, so when I spend a bit of money on brushes, they last fantastically and I love working with them. Another thing is, to bear in mind that if something doesn't work for you, if you're struggling to blend your eyeshadow, for example, or you're not getting quite the result you want, sometimes, and this is what I used to do in the early days when I first started out in my career, is I switched the brush that I was using, and I just found that by doing that I could get a better effect, and it was just easier for me to apply. So for example, if the shape isn't quite right, or just you're not quite getting the look that you want, just think about trying another brush. I have obviously lots of brushes in my kit, and you don't need loads and loads, just a few good brushes, but again, you could always buy slightly cheaper ones just to try different shapes and sizes out, and then when you know what you really like to use, that's when you could splash out and buy a little bit more expensive and make sure they look after you and you keep them for a long time. So it is quite difficult to know when you first start doing your makeup. It's difficult to know what's going to work for you, what sort of shape, because some can look really similar but they'll give quite a different effect. So even though, yes, this one's a different colour and it's slightly bigger, turned on the side it's a very different brush. So this one's much more tapered, so it's going to give me much more precision than this one. So this is a nice general eyeshadow applicator, or shader as we call them, but this one's going to give me much more precision. So it depends how much makeup you're applying. If you're doing a very simple eyeshadow, you don't need anything this precise. So think about what you're trying to achieve, and if spending a lot of money on a brush is going to be worth it. So other things, one other thing I want to cover with brushes is just the difference between what I call the wet and dry. So when they're really, really sleek, silky, they're great for creams and liquids. And when they're a lot fluffier, they're better for powders. So it isn't a hard and fast rule, but this sort of brush won't work well in liquids and creams. So just bear in mind what product you're applying as to what brush you choose. Now there's, they used to be all animal hair, but now there's some fantastic synthetic hair brushes. So, and they're as effective and as good as animal hair, and particularly if you're going for the cruelty-free option, which most people do these days, you won't want to purchase animal hair, and you don't need to. So you can get some fantastically effective synthetic hair brushes to use in your makeup bag. When you're going to purchase your products, I definitely purchase products in person the first time, so in the shops. If you're looking at products online, the shades and the colours are not going to be true. They're going to be only how they look on that particular device that you're looking at them on. Unless you're having a repeat purchase, which is fine to buy online, and I know online purchasing is really, really popular, but when you're looking for a new product, to make sure it actually works for you, I think it's always better to buy in person. And especially if you are going for your foundation, which is something really, really tricky to get right in terms of the colour, coverage, finish, longevity, that sort of thing. I always say to my clients, always get a sample, ask for a sample of a foundation, because if it is really expensive, you could, and I have known people, they've been recommended the wrong type of colour or shade, or it just doesn't work for them. Even if they've actually tried it on in the shop, and in shops you get artificial lighting, so it's not as good as when you're trying a product in natural daylight and in your own surroundings as well. So I recommend getting a couple of different shades of a foundation type, taking them home with you, trying them over a few days, maybe a week if you've got enough of a supply. I mean, I've sometimes tried a foundation and I love it initially, it's the right colour, I think it's wonderful, and then a few days later I've just decided that actually it's not for me, it maybe doesn't last long enough, it's not performing as well as I want it to. And when you are spending a lot of money, you should expect it to perform really well. So, little tip, not every brand will be able to offer you a sample, unfortunately, but please ask, because a lot do. They don't always advertise the fact that they will give you a sample, but always ask them, because there's a high possibility that they will. And also, if you're spending money, you're investing in that brand. So I think most companies, they will want you to invest and try out their brand. So that's my top tip. A great way of trying out new products can be investing in beauty boxes, which can be relatively low cost. They tend to be a monthly subscription with various companies like Birchbox, Look Fantastic, or there's so many out there that are available, and they cater for every preference that you may have. So in a beauty box, you tend to get a range of about roughly six skincare, body care, hair care, makeup products. So some of my best kit products I've found through getting a beauty box, a monthly beauty box. Fantastic way of trying out new products. They tend to be really good size samples. So it gives you an opportunity to try some new products, and perhaps brands that you've never seen before, you can't get on the high street, that are really perhaps exciting to try, and you might get something that you really love and you can't work without. So there's a few top tips for your makeup bag. I'd love to hear your feedback. Please get in touch, it'd be great to hear from you. And thank you for watching this top tips video.